Let's test my mic. Can you clap once if you can hear me? Clap twice if you can hear me. All right, keep clapping if you think that Poland is the best place in the world for React Native development. Dzień dobry. Thank you so much for Software Mentioned for allowing me this opportunity to talk with you. I'm Rafael Mendiola. I've been working with React Native since 2017 or so, and I've had the fortune to get a lot of experience as an independent contractor, a consultant, and as an engineer at startups, scale-ups, and enterprises. I'm kind of a product engineer. I have a passion for making really, really good user experiences, and I really love the intersection of code and design. I'm currently a staff software engineer at Hinge Health, and I'm part of a pretty large React Native team. So this is my information. If you like cool stickers, see me after the talk, and I'll give you one. So we're all here because we love React Native, but let's take a step back and acknowledge the moment that we're in. Over the last couple of years, we've seen the advent of tools like ChatGPT, Cloud, GitHub Copilot, Cursor, and more. And these tools are not just speeding up coding, but they're changing how we plan, how we collaborate, and how we manage complexity. So in this talk, we're going to go over this, and we're going to talk about what differentiates large React Native teams from smaller ones. I want to show you some emergent AI workflows that aren't just about coding. And I want to offer some practical advice on how to navigate and thrive during this period. But I want to start first by telling you a story. I want to tell you about 1979. In 1979, accounting was a manual, repetitive, and painstaking task. Everything was done on paper, sometimes taped together to form mega sheets. If you made a mistake on row 12, you didn't just fix one number. You had to recalculate every row below that. That meant recalculating rows 13 through 40 by hand. Try to imagine that. This was a really slow, fragile, and painful process. Around the same time, the Apple II was becoming popular, but this was in classrooms and amongst computer nerds. It could play some really cool games, but in the corporate office, it was kind of a joke. Nobody was buying a personal computer to do serious business work. Meanwhile, in a Harvard classroom, a former MIT computer science nerd was getting frustrated. Every time the professor changed a number on the board, he and his classmates had to recalculate everything by hand. It really sucked. So he thought there had to be a better way. Something interactive, something automatic. And because he studied computer science at MIT, he just built it. And this tool became VisiCalc, the first electronic spreadsheet, a $100 program that only ran on the Apple II. It looked like a blank grid. But if you typed in numbers and formulas, it would instantly recalculate the entire sheet when you changed a single value. And anybody who worked with numbers saw the potential instantly. This was a superpower. All of a sudden, people who had never touched a computer before were suddenly buying Apple products, Apple computers, just to run this one program. And in 1980, Apple sold nearly twice as many Apple IIs as the year before. Number crunchers loved it because there was no programming involved. You didn't have to be a computer nerd. You just needed to know your numbers and what you wanted to do with them. And this tool enabled the exploration of new workflows. You could build financial models, adjust assumptions, and ask, what if? And get an answer instantly, right on your desk. This was the kind of accounting work that used to take 20 hours, and now it took 20 minutes. And over time, the skill set shifted. and the expectations changed. Professionals began to split their careers into two eras: before spreadsheets and after. Does this sound familiar? So we're going through a similar shift. But for us, it's not just about writing code faster, because AI is embedding itself across the entire development cycle, and new kinds of engineering workflows are emerging. By the way, these people are all AI generated. You can't really see their hands, but I promise you they still have their 6 fingers. No AI models were harmed in the making of these slides. So this talk is titled At Scale. What does that mean? Well, React Native teams tend to be small due to the high operational efficiency that it gives us. That's why I love React Native, because you can have one team, one code base, and if you're using a product like Expo, you can ship your product to iOS, Android, and web at the same time. So culturally, React Native teams tend to maintain this kind of like startup-style scrappiness. But when those teams succeed and the company starts scaling, then you start getting more formal product development processes. And in a larger organization, that looks like this pipeline. And you'll often have multiple teams doing their own pipeline in parallel. So we start with the PRD, which is the product requirements document, which defines the what, the why behind the feature, and aligns the stakeholders and developers around the user needs and the business goals. Then we go through design. We will write a technical spec. We'll break that work down into tasks. Then we'll implement the code. Then we'll go through the code review, and there's usually some CI step that automates some quality checks. And then when we're getting ready for release, we go through a QA process, and then we release the app to our users in a stage rollout. So new workflows using AI are emerging at every step. So for example, PMs can use AI to generate the first drafts of their PRDs. There are even products now that are offering to write you PRDs for you. There's tools like Figma that are rolling out new AI generation features that help designers create their designs faster. And in CI, and you've probably seen this with GitHub Copilot, we can add AI to help us analyze code in ways that go beyond the basic linting. We can now generate reports that give us detailed analysis and better suggestions for code improvements. So we don't have time to go deep into all of those stages. Each one could be its own talk. So I want to talk about some workflows in the stages that are most relevant to us as developers, which are writing technical docs, breaking work down into tasks, implementing code, and reviewing PRs. But we really need to start with code. So something to highlight is that we are all in different stages of discovering workflows with AI. I've been working with AI on my personal projects, and I work at a company that is an early adopter of AI tools. Some of you, however, are working at companies that still haven't made a decision on whether they should allow AI tooling. And depending on experience, you might be using one of these current workflows right now. So you might be using ChatGPT to ask questions and copy and paste code into your project. You could be using GitHub Copilot to perform autocomplete. Maybe you've adopted a smarter editor like Cursor to write into your codebase and do bigger refactors. Maybe you already figured out that you can use Cursor to gather insights about your codebase. Maybe you already integrated your Cursor workflow with tools like GH and the Atlassian MCP to automate common tasks. And to be honest, there is so much more. I think I was talking with Gabby Mancha yesterday. He's probably out there somewhere. And holy crap, there's just so much other stuff that I don't even know about that I need to learn about. So the most popular workflow right now is vibe coding. Vibe coding is when you pop open your AI assistant, type a vague prompt, and you just repeat the process with make it work. And you don't really have to read the code that's being created. You're just vibing. If you're starting on a new project, this is a really nice experience because you get a really nice productivity boost. And if you know what you're doing, you're not going to get stuck. However, in a large production code base, in a company that has a lot of users, multiple teams, shared code, and critical business metrics to maintain, that's not a responsible way to work. And that should be your first clue that AI is not going to replace developers, because the job isn't just typing code. It's understanding impact, coordinating across teams, and making sure that your decisions lead to a high-quality product. So I want to show you a workflow where you can take advantage of AI-assisted coding while still being diligent with your work. Using a plan.md file is one of those emerging workflows that a lot of people have been discovering independently. It arises from the need to retain context between chat sessions. If you do a lot of AI coding, you'll know that every once in a while you need to fire the AI assistant because it went crazy. So this file is a way to retain state, and it's essentially a scratchpad for your thoughts. But it's also a place where you can collaborate with your AI assistant to really flesh out your ideas and do diligent work. Once you've come up with a good plan, you can ask your AI assistant to create well-defined tasks to implement it, and then execute it step by step. So I'm going to show you this with an example from the Expo repo. This is a code fix that just got merged. And I want to give a huge shout out to Lukasz Kosmati for letting me use this as an example and collaborating with me on this part of the presentation. Poland really has the best developers. So this PR fixes a silent type conversion error that was leading to a null pointer exception later on in the code. When we send data from JavaScript to the native layer, it's possible to send a data structure like an array that contains a null value. But since the native side is typed, if we convert that into a list that doesn't allow nullable values, that's going to cause a null pointer exception later on. So the PR that we're looking at is going to detect the cases when this is happening and fire an early exception instead of just silently letting it crash later. So here I've written a prompt that states the problem and asked the agent, in this case Cursor, to start collaborating with me on a solution in a plan.md file. So the specifics of the code are not really important here. I just want to show you what I'm doing with Cursor here. So as you can see here, Cursor will start building a plan.md file with its understanding of the problem and will try to come up with a solution. It really doesn't matter here if it gets it right the first time. The point is that we're going to keep iterating on this file until we have a solution that makes sense. And you'll see that there's a file being written right there. So here, I'm just going to keep chatting with Cursor, and it's going to refine my plan. So I'm giving it some feedback on the plan that I originally got. And you'll see that it will edit it. So there you go. And then once you have a plan that makes sense, you can ask Cursor to break it out into tasks that can be automated by an agent. So here, I'm giving Cursor a prompt to give me a list of clearly defined steps that can be completed. And you'll see that here, Cursor will add the list of tasks at the end of the file. And then once you're happy with the breakout of tasks, you can actually tell the agent to start implementing this step by step. This is going to give you better results than just chatting directly with Cursor and expecting it to do things correctly on the first try. And this is one of the common frustration points that people first experience. So I'm not going to show you how this actually gets implemented because I want to talk about how this workflow scales to help you write technical documentation. If you're a tech lead, you probably spent a lot of time writing technical proposals, epics, and breaking those down into tickets. So you can scale this plan.md workflow for larger projects because it's essentially the same thing. The key insight here is that you can use Cursor or an AI agent for a lot more than just writing code. You can use it for technical writing. As you break out the work into Jira ticket descriptions, you can tell Cursor to follow a specific Jira template. And this will stop the complaints from your team about badly written tickets. If you want to take this even further, you can even automate the creation of the tickets in Jira itself by hooking up Cursor with the MCP server that Atlassian recently made available. So I'm not going to dive deep into that, but I just want you to know that automating this is possible. Now, let me show you a workflow for reviewing PRs. So let's go back to Lucas's PR and show you how to review it with Cursor. So I mentioned MCP, and everybody's interested right now in using MCP servers to connect agents to external services. But you can actually get a lot done with command line tools. For example, the GH command is GitHub CLI tool that lets you perform common operations in GitHub. And right here, these are two commands that let me view the PR information for the current branch, and I can get the PR diff for the current branch. And I personally like using GHPR diff rather than using Git, because this will actually give you the diff of the PR all the time. So the prompt that I'm adding here is I'm going to tell Cursor Agent to review this PR for me by pulling the data using GHPR view to get the PR information, and then use GHPR diff to get the diff. We're going to write an analysis and check if what is written in the diff matches the intent of the PR description. And I'm also asking it to give a TLDR of the changes of each file. So we're asking it to write it to a Scratch file called prreview.md. And after that's done, one of the things that we can do is just similar with the plan.md workflow, is that we can ask it to write me a list of things that I can check just by code inspection to verify that the PR is correct. So we're going to write this PR analysis, and then we're going to write a list of things that we need to check. And then you can get Cursor to actually do the check for you. So here we already have the basic PR review document, and we're asking it to create us a list of things to check. And then it's going to apply that. And then you can go ahead and ask Cursor, hey, can you please perform these checks for me? So this is not a way for you to be lazy. This is a way for you to be diligent. You still need to do the PR review yourself. And because you're working with a Scratch file, essentially, you can keep having conversations with Cursor and ask specific questions about the code that you're looking at. And this is really useful when you're looking at some complicated code. By the end of your PR review, you'll have a really nice document that explains the technical details of what's going on. So let's start wrapping this up. I know that I just threw a lot of information at you. There's a lot of really quick videos happening. I want to let you know that I put up a blog post about this, and you can check it out at my site, raf.dev. And it's a blog post about the workflows that I just showed you. So interesting stuff, new workflows. Let's talk about navigating this AI shift. We're all navigating this in our own ways. And I think it's reasonable to feel uncertainty. Some of us are early adopters, and some of us are a little bit more cautious. I work at a company that is an early adopter of AI, and some other companies out there still haven't really made that decision. So we're kind of all over the place. Some of you have had a bad experience trying out AI, and you haven't actually tried again. And I want to encourage you to keep trying. If you found AI tooling difficult to use in the past, I want to offer you an analogy. Imagine somebody gave you a Lamborghini, and you get into the car, start it, and you immediately crash it into a wall. That's not the Lamborghini's fault. It's just a machine. You have to learn how to drive it. So I encourage you to keep trying. So the big question that a lot of people have is, are software development jobs going to go away? And I can tell you from my experience, they're not. What's happening is that the scope of the work is going to shift towards higher order tasks and more sophistication. And this can free up developers to dive into more complex problems or expand into other areas like product and design. If you think about it, accounting jobs didn't go away in the 80s. Lower clerk level positions were eliminated over time, but the demand grew for higher skilled accountants who could leverage the new tools. And at first, you didn't need to learn how to code to be able to run sophisticated financial analysis with spreadsheets. But nowadays, financial professionals write code into the spreadsheets all the time. I think the real question for me right now is, are engineering jobs going to get lame? And the answer for me is maybe, actually. It really depends on the engineering leadership of your company. If you're an engineering leader in the room right now, you should really think about how you want to take your team through this transition. This is a quote from a recent New York Times article where some industry developers were saying that their work is becoming more routine, less thoughtful, and faster paced. And this is one way that things could go, sure. If you want to have a good guide on how to navigate this transition, I would suggest that you read some books about the early computing history. So you can read up about what happened when spreadsheets came out and how were those professionals affected. And as you get deeper into the earlier computer history, you'll start noticing that everything that is about to happen has already happened before. And that will give you more confidence. By the way, I made this into a sticker, so if you see me after this, I can give you one. So here's my advice. I think the current industry vibe ignores a very important point, and that is, as engineers, you are now incredibly, ridiculously empowered. So today, pay attention to the talks for the rest of the day and get inspired. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff happening. You should dust off your side projects and get them done, because you can do whatever you want now. You can work on whatever you want and get it done quickly. By the way, this presentation is just a few React components, some CSS, cobbled together with Vibe coding. So you can make some really interesting, wonderful things. And going forward, what's going to differentiate you is your insight, your creativity, your taste, your ability to communicate, and your ability to persuade others. So think about it. We all just got Lambos. Learn how to drive them and go have fun. Thank you so much.